Hello, welcome back to Reads of an Apple. My name is Stacy and I'm here to film another favorites video. It feels like it's been forever and it kind of has. I was able to pre-film the first two favorite videos before I moved, and it has since been just over a week since I moved, and I am finally up to where all of my pre-recorded videos are, so I have to get rolling again. But anyway, today is the third favorites bracket of 2022 I will be filling out, and since we are going in alphabetical order, that means today, as you could probably tell from the thumbnail and from the description and all that, today is historical romance. I am very excited to chat historical romance, and the ones that I read in 2022, I have quite a few that have really stuck out in my brain, especially ones that I read earlier on in the year, and I'm very, very excited to get through it. Before we just jump in, if you have not seen my other favorites videos, check them out. I will put them up above, a link to the playlist, but this is also in that playlist, so I'm sure it pops up in the sidebar or somewhere else as well. I changed things up slightly from this year. We'll go over the differences when we switch to my screen capture of what is happening with the actual brackets themselves that I created. But also this year I'm using Canva. So last year I created my brackets in Canva, but then I filled them out via Photoshop. This time I'm just doing everything in Canva. We'll keep it easy peasy, nice and simple, hopefully, and go from there. So yeah, I think that's it. So let's talk about historical romance. Okay, so here we are. Let me just get things pulled up here and then we can kind of start going over things. Here is the bracket that I did create this year. We have the same sort of layout, 16 seed, a favorite for each of the 12 months, and then 4 bonus books. I did this year change up who went against who, and I have a new color theme and a new background picture. So I chose this sitting room one, and I had to pick it because this dude over here in the blue shirt, he's like playing with a kitty. But so yeah, this year we have January versus October, March versus December, May versus bonus book number 2, July versus bonus book number 1, September versus February, November versus April, bonus book 1 versus June, and bonus book 3 versus August. Now, like I said, I did create these all in Canva, and in my link tree, which is in the bottom of all of my videos and on all of my social media about me blurbs, is a link for you to make a template off of the brackets I did if you would like to fill any of these out yourself or just have it for fun, or you know, whatever you want to do. It is there, and it will be there until I get the 2023 one created and kind of switch places, but I'll at least leave it up through probably the end of February, since I'll still have my 2022 favorites kind of still coming out at that point. But anyway, let us talk about the books that I read. So I did create a couple different cheat sheets for myself this year. So I will be reading off of, I called this my 2022 bracket info. And this is just the basic information. I downloaded this onto my iPad, so I will be kind of using these sheets to refresh my mind as we chat here. But I also have created this. Now, one thing I am doing slightly different this year compared to last year is, instead of talking about each book as we fill out the bracket, we're going to go over all of my top books of 2022 for historical romance, and then we will fill out the bracket. I found that it talking about the books a little bit beforehand and kind of getting things situated in my mind as we talk about them will, I've found from the first two brackets I've done this year, or the first two brackets I've done for 2022, the actual filling out the bracket was a little bit easier than the previous year that I did this. So let us just kind of get into it. I'm going to zoom in here and we will just kind of get into it. And then as you can see, there are also a couple honorable mentions, but we will save those for later. So we are going to start right at the top with January, my favorite book and my first favorite historical romance of 2022 was West End Earl by Bethany Bennett. This is the second book in her Misfits of Mayfair series. I give this book 5 stars. This book has one of my favorite plot twists in it. I still, like, this is a book that lives rent-free in my head. I loved it to pieces. The cover is gorgeous, but this is Ophelia and Cal is the Earl. He is best friends with the hero from the first book, and Ophelia, going by Fee, has been living as her twin brother who has died. And so she's been living as a man since he passed away to escape the clutches of her horrible or overbearing uncle who received custody and stewardship over her and her brother when their parents died when they were young. And she has been in hiding from him, living as her brother to kind of escape his clutches a little bit, because as a male, you aren't as reliant as much on your parents and guardians and things like that. And she has just kind of been Cal's right-hand man and is helping him out. They constantly train like fencing together, and they hang out all the time, and eventually he finds out that she's actually a woman. And the way that his brain was already kind of switching, and he was already just kind of developing feelings for her. And then once he kind of really sees her as a woman and he doesn't feel weird about being attracted to her, and he can really kind of accept and fully integrate the attraction he has for her, both in looks and in personality, and he makes a stupid choice in the plot twist that comes from that. It just, like I said, it lives rent-free in my head. This is probably going to be one of the top contenders. Like I said, it is just so good. This is Bethany Bennett's debut series. This is the second book she's ever written. I am obsessed with her. I cannot wait to see whatever she writes in the future. But yeah, I loved it. For February, this one is The Beast of Clan Kincaid by Lily Blackwood. This is the first book in her Highland Warrior series. Now this one I only gave 4 stars, but I believe this was either one of 2 historicals I read that month and the other one had no chance of being a favorite. Or this was the only one, and since it was still at least 4 stars, I allowed it. There were a couple, I tried to keep everything 4.5 or 5 stars where I could, but you'll see a couple that went through because I didn't get to very much historical romance, or I just needed a bonus book to fill a slot or something like that. But anyway, this is Highlander romance. This is Elspeth and Niall, and what happens is Niall is the beast, and he and his family, the Kincaids, are attacked by a neighboring clan, and his parents are killed, and him and his brothers are basically kind of forced to escape to kind of fend for themselves, and they are now returning to claim their home castle, I guess, in their homeland, and Niall is the first to come back, and this is his romance with the McLaren clan's daughter, who was the clan that ended up taking over his home castle. And he ends up hiring him as like a hired soldier, kind of like Highland Times mercenary type dude, and without knowing who he really is, because at this point he's just known as the Beast, and he has matured into a full-grown human, so he looks very different. I super enjoyed this. From what I could tell, this is her debut book, and this trilogy is the only series that she's ever written. But yeah, I overall enjoyed it, and at some point I do hope to finish this trilogy because I was intrigued by the other brothers. It just hasn't happened as of now. Moving on to March. Here is one of the ones where it didn't quite make my favorites. It'll probably get booted out pretty quickly in the bracket. But we have The Proposal by Mary Balogh. This is the first book in her Survivors Club series. And I gave this one 3.5 stars. It was fine. There were parts I enjoyed about this. This is Gwendolyn and Hugo. And she is a widow and doesn't really want to marry again. And she injures herself around Hugo's country estate, and he ends up kind of grabbing her and taking care of her at his place. And it is their kind of ish reluctant courtship. He doesn't really want to deal with her, but he's attracted to her. She doesn't really, like, she's interested in him, but she doesn't like the way he's treating her. And then she's not really intrigued by his situation. And so it's like, it's very interesting. I do want to read more Mary Balogh, but so far the couple that I've read from her just didn't quite hit me where I wanted. But I am willing to keep trying because I know that she is a historical romance favorite. I think it has to be a combination of the tropes and the way that she's writing fitting my mood, and the tropes being just something that I enjoy. And then moving on to April, we have Topaz by Beverly Jenkins. And I should say, I read March's book, The Proposal, as a Rake Appreciation Society book. And then the same for Topaz by Beverly Jenkins. And I have to say, this is my favorite Beverly Jenkins so far. I gave this 4 stars. I had so much fun with this. This is Kate and Dixon. And Dixon is a Black Seminole, so he is Black, but he also is Native American. And he is a deputy or a warden, or he's like the lead lawmaker in his area of a reservation, I believe is what it was. And so this had like adventure vibes. And Kate is a newspaper woman, and she's trying to take down some corrupt business person, and she ends up kind of being forced to marry Dix to be saved and protect her from what's going on. And so not only is there that situation, but her father kind of gambles her away to Dixon. So it's a crazy setup. It's slightly bonkers, but this was like Beverly Jenkins' take on like a ride 'em cowboy shoot 'em up Western historical romance, and I loved it. I definitely need to read more Western historicals. I love them to pieces, and it's been a while since I've really kind of dove deep in them, but like I enjoyed this one so freaking much. And yeah, 4 stars, and my favorite Beverly Jenkins so far. So let us keep going. So now we come to May. So for May, we have Rules for a Proper Governess. This is by Jennifer Ashley. This is the 7th book in her Mackenzie's and McBride's series, and I give this 4 stars. I usually try not to read series out of order, so I've only read The Madness of Ian Mackenzie, which is book 1 in the series, but then this book won the Smart Women Read Romance Patreon exclusive review, so I ended up picking this one up, and I did not have time to read 5 books in between the two. So I enjoyed this. This was a little bit different. This is Sinclair, and he is a barrister. And then Birdie, Birdie is just kind of a down on her luck girl, and she's kind of forced by her father and her seemingly intended husband, who kind of works alongside her father, to be a pickpocket. And she has a friend who ends up kind of testifying and helping take down someone who is not a good person in their area. And Sinclair is the barrister that's basically in charge of what we would think modern day as, I guess, the prosecutor's case. And in retaliation, she is forced by her father and this other man to steal his pocket watch. Unknowingly, this pocket watch is a memento from his dead wife. And then she's so intrigued by him, she kind of stalks him a little bit and comes across his children, and they're struggling with governesses. And Birdie just seems to have the magic touch with his children and is brought in as a governess, and it is their romance. I'm usually not a big fan of nanny romances, governess romances, but I enjoyed this one. I definitely need to read more in this series and more from Jennifer Ashley, and it was great fun. Plus we get another gorgeous yellow dress, and yeah, 4 stars. Then we come to my birthday month, and one of my most anticipated releases of the year, Vivian Loret's book for 2022, and that is How to Steal a Scoundrel's Heart, the 4th book in the Mating Habits of Scoundrel. And this is Prue's book. We finally get to know what was going on with Prue, because she's been in the country and just corresponding with her other 3 friends during the first 3 books, and I gave this 5 stars. But Vivian Loret is probably one of my favorite modern day historical romance authors. I have all of her backlist in physical form, if it's available in physical form, and this was so much fun. It's not my favorite in the series, but I just, there's something about Vivian Loret's writing that just really speaks to me, and I get swept into it from the first word. And I just, this is so much fun. So Prue has been ruined, and what ends up happening is her horrendous father has remarried, and her stepmother is deciding to give away what would have been Prue's small inheritance from her mother. So just while they are heirlooms and things like that, they're more sentimental heirlooms. And then there's also an unentailed piece of property, a little cottage. And her stepmother is giving these away. So Prue decides to head back into London despite being ruined and a pariah, and steal all these items back because they rightfully belong to her. And she runs into Leo. Their meet cute was so awesome. I loved it. I was laughing so hard. It was so much fun. And Leo is the Marquess of Savage, and she basically ends up entering a deal with him to become his quote-unquote mistress, and he will help her steal her inheritance back. And it was just so much fun. And I mean, I love it. I cannot wait for book 5. It comes out the end of February. And I love Vivian Lorette. So, I mean, it would take a really, really, really horrible book for her to not have a favorite on this list when she has a new release. So, I'm not surprised it's here, but it was even better that it was my birthday month. And I love this series, and I love Vivian Lorette. If you have not tried her, please try her. She definitely has kind of a different vibe than a lot of popular historical romance authors, but like I said, there's just something about her writing that is just so cozy and just all encompassing that just makes me feel like I'm snuggled up in warm blankets and I'm just ready to go on an adventure in my mind. And I love it. Okay, so moving on to July, we have another Rick Appreciation Society book, and that is The Lady Chosen by Stephanie Lawrence. This is the first book in her Bastion Club series. Now, this is the first Stephanie Lawrence book that I have read. I have been wanting to read her Senster series. It's been on my TBR for freaking ever, but beside the point, I'm not sure what to think about this book. I gave it 3.5 stars. Overall enjoyed it. It just didn't quite meet the hype that I've heard about Stephanie Lawrence, and it also didn't quite give me exactly what I wanted from it. But this is Leonora and Tristan is an earl, and he is kind of being forced to marry within a year to retain his inheritance, but he just kind of ends up choosing and his neighbor who's next door, who's very intriguing. And I enjoyed that she kind of was a spinster and considered herself off the shelf, and she was also her family had their house kind of potentially being broken into, and so we had a little bit of a murder mystery going on, and so it was a little kind of bonkers, but I know that is a case of what Stephanie Lawrence does. But I mean, I thought it was fun. I definitely want to read more from her. This one just didn't quite hit it out of the park for me, but I still enjoyed it. And then the final one on this row is August, and that I had to give to Whispers on the Wind by Donna Fletcher. I love Donna Fletcher. She kind of took BookTube by storm a little bit ago with some of her Highlander romances, and this is a standalone from her, and this one is interesting. So this is Billy and Max, and Billy is her nickname, obviously, and she is an American, and the solicitor of Max, and he is an English lord. When he dies, her stepfather is the heir to him, and being her name is Billy, and her name was Billy in all of her stepfather's wills, she has now inherited this estate in Britain. So she goes there after her mom and stepfather's passing, and she has kind of nowhere else to go. And while she's there, she learns that this estate in Cornwall is haunted by the ghost of Max, and it is their romance. So we have a romance between her and Max, and this one is a little bit love triangle-y because she also has a flirtation with the local vicar, and so I'm not usually a love triangle person, but this one worked for me and I thought it was great fun. This one also kind of had a murder mystery vibe. She's trying to figure out what exactly happened to Max and why his spirit is restless, and then we also get his father's ghost is also there. So I mean, there was a lot going on with this, and it was super fun. I gave it 5 stars, and I mean, it's not very often that I can find a paranormal historical romance, and this is just, I mean, it's great. I mean, if you've enjoyed Donna Fletcher's Highlander series and you're looking for a standalone that's a little bit more on the bunker side, definitely check this out for sure. All right, so let me reset here. So moving on to September. This is, I believe, another Rake Appreciation Society book. They picked a lot of great books this year. And this was Surrender by Amanda Quick. I gave this one 4 stars. I'm a fan of Amanda Quick. You kind of have to go into her books expecting something bonkers and slightly crazy and not really take it too seriously and just be there for the good time. But so this is Victoria and Lucas, and she is an heiress, and she's basically trying to, she doesn't want to get married because she doesn't want to marry a fortune hunter, and she's tired of dealing with fortune hunters, and she ends up kind of constantly running into the Earl of Stonevale, which is Lucas, and it is their romance. Now, the biggest reason why I dropped this down to 4 stars is because when we get to the conflict, and I feel like in most books it would be considered the third act conflict, but this was more kind of halfway through the book. She's angry because he wasn't forthcoming with some information, and when she learns about why he wasn't forthcoming with this information, she like blatantly says, I understand why he did this. He has sound reasonings for keeping the truth from me, and I understand that it's not just him coming after my money, but the fact that his money is going to be not only flourishing his title and his estate, but all of the people that rely on the work of the estate and the nearby town and all of these other people. And it's not just he's a greedy person who wants her money, but then she still chooses to be very angry with him and very rude with him for longer than I wanted, even after she has this realization. So that was my biggest detractor of dropping it down to 4 stars. But I'm a big fan of Amanda Quick, and I definitely want to read more of her books. Then October, we have another Rake Appreciation Society book, and this is The Lotus Palace by Jeannie Lin. This is the first book in her Ping Kang Li mystery series, and this is Yu Ying and Bai Huang. And this was so much fun. So Yu Ying is a maidservant, and then Bai Huang is like a Chinese son of a nobleman. For if you don't really know Chinese or Asian history and the way that their nobility kind of works, he's pretty much a nobleman in China, or his father is like a military type nobleman, but it is their relationship. There is a mystery, and she is the maidservant to a courtesan, and it was just super fun, and I loved it to pieces. I am a big fan of Jeannie Lin's other popular series, and I was super excited to get to this one, and I definitely want to read more from this series and more from Jeannie Lin. And I just love that we're like more historical romances are popping up that aren't just in America and the UK. Like, I love seeing these Asian Asian-based historical romances. They're just so much fun for me, especially because my minor in college was Asian history. My emphasis was on Japan, but I just love learning that. And let me tell you, if you have not seen a Chinese historical fantasy drama. They are amazing and bonkers and a lot of fun. And so if you enjoyed this book, I would recommend checking out some of those dramas as well, because they are fun. But anyway, we will move on. I gave that 4.5 stars. I can't remember if I said that or not. Then on to Teresa Medeiros. So for November, the Smart Women Read Romance Patreon exclusive pick was this book. This is the first in her Once Upon a Time series, and this is between Willow and Banner, and I gave this 4 stars. This was so much fun. And what happens is Banner is a widower twice over, and he has a bunch of kids, and he home from war, and he's like, I need a woman of the house to kind of keep these kids in line and get things straightened up around here. So he sends one of his right-hand men out to find a woman who he will not be attracted to and who is willing to take care of and raise his children. And he doesn't want to have more children with her, which is why he doesn't want her to be attractive. And they end up finding Willow, and she is attractive, but she is more than happy to escape the horrible home life situation. And she shows up and is married by proxy to Banner, and she just kind of has to take over raising his kids, and there's conflict between her and the kids and conflict between her and Banner because he's attracted to her and he doesn't want to be attracted to her because he doesn't want her to have more kids, and it's this big whole thing. I didn't give it 5 stars just because I do wish that there was a little more focus on their romance. I feel like most of the plot of this was trying to get her to find acceptance with his children and him, and not in a romantic way, just as in a familial and personal way. And so I did wish that there's a little more romance in it, but I thought it was great fun. I'm a big fan of Teresa Medeiros, and I definitely want to read more from her. Okay, then we've got December. The Best Money, or The Best Husband Money Can Buy by Mary Jo Putney. This is a standalone novella from her, holiday novella. This is the first Mary Jo Putney I've read. I picked this audiobook on Hoopla for my Vlogmas content, and I loved it. 5 stars. I definitely want to read more of Mary Jo Putney. If you have a guide, or you know somebody, or you know where I can really start to kind of dig into her backlist, please let me know. I want to read more to Mary Jo Putney, but I love this. So this is Emma and Anthony, and Emma finds herself suddenly in a windfall of funds, and she wants what she's always wanted: a husband and a family of her own, and a place that she can call home. And she ends up finding out that a distant cousin of hers that she had a crush on when they were kids isn't married and is in needs of money to kind of help save his crumbling estate. And so she approaches him and proposes a marriage of convenience between them, because he needs the money and she wants kids and a home that she can call her own. And they end up going to the family's big Christmas party, and it's been years since she's been there. And just the way that they've reconnected, and I mean, it's a novella, so it's a little insta-lovey, but I don't know, it just worked for me. And I love the way that they just kind of both came to realize that there was more there when they were children than they kind of were aware of, and at the same time it's changed now that they're adults. And I loved it to pieces. 5 stars. The audio book is great, so if you're looking for a historical holiday novella, definitely check it out. I loved it. Okay. Our final 4 books for the bracket are our bonus books. So we have Dukes Do It Better. This is the 3rd and final book in Bethany Bennett's Misfits of Mayfair trilogy, and I gave this book 5 stars. It was so much fun. And what this is, Emma and Mal's book, Malachi, and Emma is the younger sister to Cal from West End Earl, which was my favorite January book, if you recall. And we kind of see the aftermath of what she is going through after the events that happened in the second book. And she is living as a widow. And it is her relationship with Mal, who is a naval officer who becomes a duke, and it is their romance. And I loved it. It was so much fun. It was the way that this book ended was such a good way to cap off the series and like touch base with our previous couples. And this is kind of set away from Mayfair. We spend a lot of time at her small cottage that's in like a seaside village. And so I did wish that we got to see more of the other couple, especially Cal and Fee in the book, but we do get them a little bit. And I loved it. And this was the last book that Bethany Bennett wrote, and I want to know what she's doing next, and I cannot wait. And I highly, highly recommend her series. And if you're looking for a new historical author that you can get through her backlist, right now it's only those 3 books. So jump on while the getting's low, because it won't take very long to get through her backlist and get caught up. Okay, then, I could not put Never Seduce a Scot in here by Maya Banks. This is the first book in the Montgomerys and Armstrongs. This book definitely had a booktube and a bookstagram moment this year. It's amazing, and it's hyped for a reason. It is really beautiful. This is between Eveline and Graham, and Eveline is injured when she is young and loses her hearing, but nobody realizes that she loses her hearing and her clan, and so they all just kind of think that she's daft. And then she plays it up because she knows that she's potentially getting forced into a situation where she will have to marry someone who is a horrible person, and so she kind of plays up that she's daft to escape that marriage. But what ends up happening is the king is forcing the Montgomerys and the Armstrongs to create an alliance, and Eveline is kind of forced to marry Graham, who is the eldest son, and he is very put out by this because he wants a real wife. He wants to be able to bed his wife and have children, and if she has the mind of a child, which is the rumor, then how can he do that? Like, he feels like the king is sentencing him to the end of his line, basically, because he is the eldest. And yes, he has the 2 brothers, but he's sentencing him to not have a wife and a normal relationship with a wife, and not have the chance to have kids who aren't bastards and things like that. And so he's kind of very put out, and his voice is so low that she can actually hear him at times, and their romance was just so beautiful. I love the way that her friendship formed with his sister and his brothers, and it's a magical book. And so if you're worried because it's hyped, it really is worth the hype. It is so well done. And what's interesting is the author's note at the end. Her husband has a very similar type of hearing disability that Eveline is given in the book, and so it's definitely pulled off of experiences that her husband has had. And it was really kind of interesting to learn that her husband went through something very similar, where people didn't realize that he couldn't really hear, and when he was going through like his master's and his college courses, he just always sat in the front and paid attention and learned to kind of read lips. And it was just mind-boggling, on top of the gorgeousness of this book, that something like that actually kind of happened in the modern day, which is crazy. But anyway, it's beautiful. Please read it if you haven't. Bonus book number 3 I had to give to Kat Martin and The Bride's Necklace. This is the first book in her necklace trilogy. This was originally the Rake Appreciation Society book for December, but then with the holidays and stuff going on, they ended up canceling the live show. But because I already had it checked out on my Hoopla, I read it anyway because I ran out of checkouts for the month of December, and I was like, I'm reading it anyway because I already have it checked out. And I enjoyed this. This is my first book by Kat Martin. I have quite a few of her books because she has gorgeous step backs, but I give this 4 stars. It was super fun. This is Victoria and Cord, and Victoria and her sister are escaping her horrible guardian of an uncle, and they find employ in Cord's townhouse in town. So they go to town and start working for him, and Victoria becomes his housekeeper, and it is their romance, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, it went on a little too long for me, and there were some weird back and forth situations where one person was mad at the other, and then it kind of flipped, and then it was kind of going back and forth. But overall, I really enjoyed this. I have read the second book in the trilogy, and I definitely want to read the last book in the trilogy as well. But yeah, I'm a fan of this series, and it's nice to find an older historical romance that is just very sweeping and beautiful. And then the final book we've got is bonus book number 4, and that is The Christmas Cuckoo by Mary Jo Putney. This is Meg and Major Jack, and she is once again another holiday novella, and Meg is headed to town to pick up her brother's friend, Major Jack, and his name is Jack Howard, but there are 2 Jack Howards, so she accidentally brings the wrong Jack Howard home, and he ends up being a higher status and kind of a hero in the military. But he's there to kind of help her set up Christmas festivities while she waits for her brother to come home from war. And it was super cute. It was it was super fun, and it swept me away just as much as The Best Husband Money Can Buy, just not quite as much. And I listened to this while doing some Christmas grocery shopping the weekend before Christmas, and I listened to it the entire time I was at the store, and it was great, and I gave it 4.5 stars. Okay, so let us talk real quickly about my 3 honorable mentions that we have here, and then we will get on to filling out the brackets. So first off, I've got Sabrina Jeffries, The Pirate Lord. This is the first book in her Lord trilogy. I read this for the Smart Women Read Romance exclusive Patreon review, and I thought this was super fun. I gave it 4 stars. This is between Sarah and Gideon, and Sarah is the sister of, I can't remember if he's an earl or a different title, but she is joining some women who are sentenced to do some time in Australia, and so she is going with them as a part of her charity organization to find the truth about what these women go through, and to try to help have them have some better advocate for them to have better circumstances and not just be treated like trash. And while she's on her way to Australia, her ship gets captured by Gideon, and it is their romance, and it was super duper fun. This gave me 7 Brides for 7 Brothers vibes, and it was just, like I said, it was just a lot of fun. The second honorable mention I want to throw out there is How to Abduct a Highland Lord by Karen Hawkins. This is the first book in her McLean Curse series, and this is Fiona and Jack. And yes, she abducts him. Fiona is the McLean here, and she abducts Jack and kind of marries him over the anvil when he's like drunk or completely out of his wits or something like that, and then he wakes up married to her. It's a forced marriage, but they also had a relationship when they were younger, and so it's also kind of a second chance, and there's some slight paranormal vibes with what's going on with the McLean curse. And yeah, I thought it was great fun. I gave it 4.5 stars. I remember very vividly, I read this for a readathon. I think it was one of the historical romance readathons. But I remember very vividly sitting in my car at the car garage at the like fancy movie theater with like the reclining seats and stuff here in town. And I had finished the book in the car while waiting for my movie time before going in. And then I filmed my wrap-up clip for the book in the car. I just remember very vividly finishing it and being like, I have to film it now even though I'm sitting in my car. And yeah, it was just great fun. And then our third honorable mention that I have here is A Daring Pursuit by Kate Bateman. This is the second book in her Ruthless Rivals series. This was once again a Rank Appreciation Society book. And even though I own all 3 books in this series, the third one came out in December, I had not read the first book before reading this one. But this one was kind of bonkers. It was a little bit unexpected for what was kind of going on. I do feel like the Ruthless Rivals series title does kind of lend towards it being more enemies to lovers, you think, going into this series, but it didn't really feel enemies to lovers. Their parents definitely are enemies, but all of the kids used to play together growing up, and so there wasn't really that big of an enemies vibe. There's some weirdness with a bear. there's a questionable decision of them getting it on outside where, like, not very far from where a bear is trapped in a pit, and I'm like, this doesn't seem safe at all. And I mean, it was fun. I gave it 4 stars, but it was a little too bonkers in a bad way for my enjoyment. But I still bought the entire series, and I'm definitely intrigued to go back and read the first book and read the third book as well. So yeah, that is it. That is all of the books that are going to be, you're not zooming out for me here, there we go, all of the books that are going to be on the bracket, as well as the 3 honorable mentions. So let me just get things switched over here and we will move on. So let me pull up Canva here and then we will just kind of get into it. So well, if it loads, thank you. It's thinking. Okay, so here we go. Here is the blank bracket. Hi! All ready to go. And as you can see, I have things all set up. And let us just kind of scroll down. So here we are. I have the first layer setup of books. I don't know what to do it. I just lost what it's called. But anyway, I have our first round of books all set up here. So I am going to zoom in here. Ooh, that might be a little too much. It's okay. And then we'll just kind of get into it. So first we have West End Earl versus the Lotus Palace. This is a little bit harder, but I gotta give it to West End Earl. It was so good. I feel like had the Lotus Palace been up against any other book, it probably would have won, but West End Earl was so good. Then we have The Proposal versus The Best Husband Money Can Buy. This is an easy one. I loved The Best Husband Money Can Buy. I don't know why you are struggling with centering for me. That's really annoying. Hello. All right, that might be as close as we can get here. All right, I don't want to spend too much. There we go. That's good enough. Okay, moving on. So then we have The rules for a proper governess versus never seduce a Scot. This is an easy one. Never seduce a Scot. Okay, and then the Lady Chosen versus the Christmas Cuckoo. I mean, I gave the Christmas Cuckoo a higher star rating by a full star. This was 4.5 and this one was 3.5. So I think that alone, I think I got to give it to Christmas Cuckoo. All right. These aren't going to be perfect and it's going to bother me, but we're just going to move on. Okay, so then we have Surrender by Amanda Quick versus The Beast of Clan Kincaid. Ooh, I think I'm going to give it to Surrender. I think that's, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. That sounds like a good option for me. And then Charming the Prince versus Topaz. I think I got to give it to Topaz. We got to get Queen Bev in here for sure. Okay. See, going through all the books first, I feel like this gets quicker. Ooh, Battle of the Purple Dresses. Both were 5 stars, but I gotta give it to Vivian. Ugh. I cannot tell you how excited I am for the next book in this series to come out in February. I cannot freaking wait. Ooh, The Bride's Necklace versus Whispers on the Wind. Now I gave this one 5 and this one 4. And they're both older 1990s, late 90s historical romances. I mean, this one I gave 5 stars. So, yeah, I think that's what it's got to be. Okay. So there we go. So, all right. There is round number 1 done. I'll zoom out a little bit more so you can see everything. So here we go. We're done with round 1. On to round 2. All right, I'm going to zoom in again and let us go back to the beginning here. So West End Earl versus The Best Husband Money Can Buy. Oh, that's funny that we have January's book versus December, because one definitely has a recency bias, but West End Earl, even though I read it in January of 2022, still sticks out in my brain so much. I gotta give it to it. I have to. It's written in my brain that this is what it is, and it's fighting me again. I don't know why it's fighting me. Please stop fighting me. Okay, that's good enough. All right, we're gonna zoom out a little bit and come across. Ooh, Never Seduce a Scot versus The Christmas Cuckoo. Oh, poor Mary Jo Putney. She's just getting booted this round, but it's where we're at. Okay. And then we'll come back over here. Surrender versus Topaz. So this is the Battle of the 4 Stars. I think... What do you think? Oh, really? Okay. I think I'm going to give it to Topaz. It did a little more. It did a little more for me here. Oh, really? Do you agree? Okay, that's good. I'm glad you agree with your mama. Okay, How to Steal a Scoundrel's Heart versus Whispers on the Wind. I mean, this is an easy choice for me. I mean, I kind of see where this is going. I kind of see where this is going to go here. Okay, so there is round number 2 done. So there we go. Just a little too big. There we go. Okay, so round number 2 is done. All right. So that was quarterfinals. So now we are on to semifinals. So let's see where we are. So West End Earl versus Topaz. I mean, West End Earl. I'm not surprised at all. Okay. And then, oh, Never Seduce a Scot versus How to Steal a Scoundrel's Heart. We've got Battle of the Purple Books. Ooh, this is a hard one. This is a very hard one for me. Shoot. Never Seduce a Scot just was so beautiful. But my love for Vivian Lorette is so much that it just pains me to not move her on to the final round. I mean, one is just gorgeous and beautiful and sweeping, and the other one is fun and plucky and makes me laugh and is just so cozy for me. And oh, this is a hard choice. We're comparing apples and oranges here. Oh, this is so hard. Okay, I need to just make a choice. I need to make a choice. I need to move on. Never Seduce a Scot. And I'm going with Never Seduce a Scot because the story, I feel like, is one of its own thing. And while I love How to Steal a Scoundrel's Heart, it is not my favorite in the series. But that's okay, because my favorite in the series is book 3, and that was my favorite historical romance of 2021. So Vivian Lorette gets a free pass this year. So she won 2021. She can't have 2022, unfortunately. So here we go. There is our semifinals. We'll zoom back out here so you can see what we're looking at. So there we go. Almost done. Final round. West End Earl versus Never Seduce a Scot. I just have to. West End Earl, like I said, lives rent-free in my head. That plot twist was so good, and I was so astounded by what was happening, and I was just like, what is happening? Why? What is going on? Why? How does she make this choice? This is so crazy. Oh my gosh, I can't believe she did this. And I just it makes me want to reread it. Honestly, it makes me want to reread it. But there we go. Let's do a full screen and let it load. Here we go. And here it is. My 2022 best historical romance is West End Earl by Bethany Bennett. Yay! But honestly, any of these books that I mentioned, you will adore if you enjoy historical romance, or if you're interested in trying out some historical romance. Definitely try picking up one of these, especially if it's one of the first books in the series. Or let me know a good place to start, because it depends on tropes and how to recommend a book. But I enjoyed all of these thoroughly. And what's funny is the book that won 2021, the Vivian Lorette, also has a yellow dress on it with a blue-ish background. So apparently that's just my thing. Give me a yellow dress on a blue background, and it's probably going to win my favorite book of the year. Well, at least that's 2 years running, right? But yeah, there we are. So there we have it. My favorite 2022 historical romance. Like I said, if you are interested in any of these, please let me know down below if you'd like more information, or just pick them up because I recommend all of these. But otherwise, let me know what your favorite historical romance is, or if you have any recs for me based off the ones that I enjoyed in 2022. I'm always looking for new historical romances, and my historical has kind of gone down in the past year and a half, and I definitely want to read more, especially outside of the 2 book clubs that I participate in, because I feel like almost all of the books were from that book club, which is great because that means that we're picking good book club books. But at the same time, I'm not doing as much free reading and finding new authors and random authors that I could potentially love. But otherwise, if you'd like to leave me an emoji, leave me something yellow in honor of the gorgeous yellow dress on the cover. But like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you soon with another video.